just like, who thought of this? But I don't know. I find it very interesting because they think they look good. And I think another thing it's being a satire on, which is there were several documentaries in the 2000s about like movie stars and behind the lights and what things look like. And so that's why it's what we do in the shadows. You're behind the camera with these people looking at their real life thing, but they're terrible at what they do, even killing people. Like they kill people. Like it's
and like before you even start the movie, it says this. What was it say? It says like this film crew was granted full access. To the home of these vampires, and every crew member wore a crucifix.
Yes, for protection.
So they was for protection. And it's just like what? And then there's so many parts in this where they're just ad-libbing. Yes. There's a moment where Vladimir and Deacon, I think, are talking on a couch or something, and it's just like. Oh, no. It's when Deacon is with Nick and he's apologizing because Stu died and he's like trying to, have this heart to heart and he can't do it. But he's like trying to do
really
it.
Bad metaphors.
And it's like, it's totally ad-libbed. Like it's 100%. They're like, all right, we'll do it a couple times and we'll see what works. And they just like, and they just have a really funny sense of humor. And a lot of the dry humor works for me a lot. And I don't know about you guys, but it worked for me a lot. And just Taika's like, sense of humor and Jermaine Clements as well. But I don't know. I haven't met anybody that doesn't connect with that humor.
Yeah.
But it's really funny because I do hear that there are people that say, oh, I just can't can't take it.
There was a friend that I had and her husband at ISU absolutely thought it was hilarious. She's like, this is stupid. They're making fun of Twilight. I won't watch this.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, or those are your reasons. You're missing out on comic genius.
Yeah.
But what's very funny is they ended up doing a TV series.
Yes.
About 3 or 4 years after this came out.
Yeah.
And they actually came back for the season finale.
Oh, that's cool.
All the original actors. And they are the Vampire Council, but in America. And you're looking at these vampires that live in Manhattan, or they're like in Brooklyn. They're somewhere in New York. And they're being put on trial. And they have all these famous people that have played. Wesley Snipes shows up.
Really?
Danny Trejo shows up. Rachel, I forget what her name is. She was on True Blood. She shows up. Tilda Swinton, who was in The Last Lovers, Left Alive with Tom Hiddleston, shows up. And then they start playing. They like start breaking the fourth wall. And they're like, is Brad coming? What about Tom Cruise? Because they did Interview with a Vampire. And they're like, no, Brad and Tom said they're not coming. And they're like, well, what about, what's the guy who played Edward, Batman?
Oh, Pattinson.
Is Rob coming? No, Rob said this part of his life is done. He's not coming. And it's really hilarious. Even Mark Hamill makes a cameo.
I saw that
in the second season, and they play with him being a vampire. And he wants one of the guys to pay him $50. And the guy's like, I have never paid any debt in my life. I'm going on the lam with an assumed name. And it's just like the same sense of humor. And Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement produced it.
It's really funny you bring up. I knew we were going to talk about the show, but I was just checking online here. Holy crap. We're recording this on October 21st.
Okay.
A couple weeks before Halloween, right?
Yes.
Guess when season 6 premieres?
Oh, I thought 5 was the last one.
So they're doing a season 6.
Oh,
Guess
wow.
what the premiere date is?
I don't know.
Tonight.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I started
Taika Waititi
2019 to 2024, and they're still going. So and Matt Berry is awesome. I love Matt Berry.
I have to
what's
say,
the meme where it's like him in that show and he's like, Yoda, like he said,
because he used to be a musician in the Victorian
age.
He's
like, what are you doing here?
Yeah,
it's like I don't know the
I have to say it's some of
Matt
the
Berry's
best
great.
written television that's also done in a mockumentary style. But one of the wonderful things that they did is they threw an American vampire who's an energy vampire, and he doesn't suck blood. Vampire. He just will talk to you about the condition of ink cartridges.
Is he the nerdy
and then
fella?
All of a sudden people like start falling asleep, and he goes, the trick is you can't let him talk. You got to keep mumbling about nothing. It's like one of those people in the office when they leave you, you're like, why am I so tired? He's an energy vampire. and I have to say, like, that is worth watching the TV series. And they did some really fun stuff in the 4th and the 5th season. Patton Oswalt actually came because they said it was going to be their last season. They end up killing him, and it's great. But I'm glad they're bringing it back for a 5th season. A 6th season, it definitely deserves.
Yeah, this is October 21st on Hulu.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Crazy. That's really funny. Let's talk about Nick and Stu. So
Okay.
the scene. So we're shown in the film that the vampires. This is how they get their people. And Deacon has is a familiar or
Deacon has a familiar, the
Yeah,
woman,
and
but I
the
forget
woman-
what her name was.
Yeah, Jackie.
Jackie.
Jackie is familiar, who he says to go get people to bring back to the house so they can eat. And he promises her as his familiar that she will become a vampire one day. And he just totally straight up just gaslights her, takes advantage of her.
The entire movie.
And she has a family and a husband,
A husband
and
and
kids.
2 children,
And she still wants to be a vampire?
and he comes to the door. He's like, "Invite me," and she goes, "No, kids,
No,
don't
kids,
let that
go.
man in.
Don't look at him. Don't
Yeah.
look at him. And and Deacon makes her do this. So she brings a couple people there. One is a girl, one's a guy. The girl gets killed, and then Nick, the camera's following him around the entire house. And Nick is just running for his life. He's so scared. He's like, "This is a messed up place. I gotta get out of here." And he runs around, and it's just in comedy ensues, and
It's absolute chaos.
it's chaos,
And
like they're
gags.
flying around. And there's a bit where Vlad Smear can transform into animals, but he doesn't get the face right.
He has ever since his relationship with the beast.
Oh yeah.
He could never get the face
Never get
quite
the
right.
face quite
So
right.
he transforms into a cat with his own face on it.
He's like, "Bleh."
Oh my goodness.
And Nick's like, "Oh my god!" And he's running around, and they're like, "Wee!" And they're like chasing him
They're
out
giggling,
the door.
they're
giggling,
laughing.
laughing. And then he finally bursts out of the house. He runs away, and they're like, "Yes!" And they're gonna start chasing him. And Jackie, of course, left after all. She's like, "Sorry, Nick." She's outside driving away. And he runs out, and he's like, "Oh god, I'm safe." And the cameras follow him for the longest time, and then finally, out of nowhere, Peter comes out of nowhere and grabs
the
him
3,000-year-old
The three-
vampire
yeah.
or 8,000-year-old vampire tackles him.
and bites him.
And they're like, "Oh, Peter
Aw,
got
Peter
him.
got
Oh,
him.
no."
Oh no! They were all
And
like,
then
"Oh,
it cuts to several months later, and Deacon is doing this bizarre dance.
oh my
the
god,
rest.
why?" He's doing
And all of a
this.
sudden, you hear a tapping on the window, and the camera turns around, and there's Nick floating outside the window in the dark. And he's like, "I am trying to put on an erotic striptease for my friends, and you just ruined it." And he goes, "Why are you going through window? Go down to door. The neighbors are gonna see you." Just like, what?
And it's like they haven't had a new vampire friend
Yeah.
in like 100 years or something.
Yeah,
I
because
don't know.
Deacon's the young one at 200 and some years old. He's the young bad boy, and Nick has now usurped his place.
has now been a couple months old as a vampire.
However, with Nick comes Stu.
And who is Stu, Angela?
Stu is his software analyst best friend. And
He works in databases.
He works in database, and he just kind of is, I guess his sister used to date Stu, but when they broke up, Stu and him stayed friends. And he hasn't told Stu that he's a vampire yet.
Oh,
And so they have to go through that painful conversation. And he tells Peter in the basement, doesn't say anything. He's just this Nosferatu looking vampire. And he goes, he's vegetarian. So I think if you turned him, that would really make him uncomfortable. He doesn't like meat, let alone eating people. So maybe don't bite him. And Peter's just like
standing
nodding
there,
his
like,
head.
mhm.
And the problem is, as with most groups and friends, the Deacon does not like Nick.
No.
But when sometimes the person that no one likes brings in a friend, everybody likes that friend.
Yep.
That dynamic changes. He shows them how to take selfies. He shows them
Those how to use the internet.
Yeah, I know. And so it's just it's a hilarious like fish out of water kind of like these people have to take public transportation to the clubs to kill people. They're on the bus with like the handicap accessible
And they have wolf
stuff.
fur on and
Yeah, and they're like,
coats.
"We are going to go on the town, vampire style." And it's just like, you are the worst vampires ever.
Oh man, David, what do you think of Stu and Nick and that whole dynamic?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I like that just for like no reason it seems like they're just like everyone just like takes an immediate liking to Stu.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
It's just like, yes.
Nick,
Yeah,
Nick has his
Stu's-
issues, but Stu's great. Oh, I love
Stu's
Stu.
cool, yeah. We love Stu.
We love Stu. He's so cool.
And they're just like, it's like, what? Like,
Why?
at any other point, they would be livid that Nick brought in a human friend to meet them all. and told them that they're all vampires, but they just take a liking to Stu for some inexplicable reason. So now he's part of their group.
Yeah, and it's not all negative aspects with Nick. Nick lets them into new clubs that he knows.
Yes.
He's like, "Oh, my friend's a bouncer. Let's go down here."
Yeah.
And he goes down. They go down. They get into a new club. Stu's just there, and he's like, and eventually Nick goes to Stu, and he finally tells him, "I'm a vampire," and it's like this supposed to be this built up. It's this really
Like I'm
serious
coming
talk.
out moment.
Yeah, I'm coming
as a
out moment as a
vampire, yeah.
vampire. And he tells Nick, and Nick's like, "Oh, okay, well that makes sense." And then
why
that's
we don't
it.
play- that's why we don't play tennis in the
That's
daytime.
why we don't play tennis in the daytime
No, you
anymore.
don't.
It's at night. And so,
Yeah.
and so we then encounter the werewolves at some point after this.
I forget what his name is. but
And,
the
and
guy
I
who's
don't remember the
leader.
guy who plays him, but he plays in
He's
what's
Our
the-
Flag is Death.
Our Flag
that
is
Taika
Death.
Waititi does.
Yeah,
And he was also in Jumanji as the one
Jumanji.
explaining, here's how you do this. You
He's
know,
like the
he's,
game
he's a
master,
famous
yeah.
Kiwi actor,
yeah.
but he's
famous
always
fella.
done bit parts.
Let me look his name
And
up.
he is fantastic. And so one night when they're leading the club, they're like, oh no, werewolves.
Oh, Deacon's like,
Some
I
stuff-
smell that.
Some stuff's gonna go down. You better be careful. And then like they go and they insult these guys and they start cussing. And the guy's like, no. What are you cussing for? Leader of the pack. Werewolves, not swearwolves. we don't do that. We don't cuss. And then one of the guys gets upset because he pretends to throw a stick and he goes, there's no stick. Don't chase it. And then all of a sudden they're like, the guy starts going, rum, rum, and he goes, no, breathe to 10. Be human again. Breathe to 10. Be human again. And it just kind of shows that there are these other creatures in this world that's supposed to be so scary, and it's not. It's the most boring, mundane existence of taking public transportation to go find victims in clubs. And we do have a bit of a confrontation between Nick and Deacon. They get in a fight and they turn to bats.
They turn to bat. They're like, oh, bat fight!
Yeah, bat fight! And then the one guy transforms back into a human and throws Nick against a steel door. And they're like, well, that's not fair. And then he flies off. And Stu is just standing there as the human watching this. So they decide to go to a restaurant to get some food for Stu. And just Nick is just having a bad night because he tries to eat a French fry and ends up getting violently sick because they can't eat human food.
They can't eat human food.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's just like you don't really know where it's going or how it's going to end. But everything kind of leads up to this unholy masquerade where all the demons and like the zombies and witches and stuff, they're all going to be there. And it's done in like a church basement kind of bowling alley. And they have this huge mirror, and of course, vampires can't see their reflection. So there's this one point where everybody's dancing, and the camera pans over the mirror, and the only people you see is Stu dancing by himself and a zombie clapping. Like, that's pretty much it, because nobody else can see the reflection. And of course, Vladislav, the one vampire, doesn't want to go. And the reason he doesn't want to go is the beast is supposed to be there. And they keep saying the beast, and every time they turn to him, you hear this bell, ding, and he goes, I hope you never see the beast. The beast is the worst creature on the planet. And he just goes into this whole thing. And then they're at the Unholy Masquerade, which is obviously a church basement that's been decorated.
It's a bowling alley.
It's a bowling alley /
something
basement.
like
And then they're raffling off a human in a cage. And if you buy 5 tickets, we're going to pull your name twice. So it's like, what are the things? Like, buy more tickets so we can have money for the next year's Unholy Masquerade. And all of a sudden, they're like, now I'd like to introduce Claudia so-and-so. And they all start clapping. And I think it's Taika Waititi's character turns to the camera and goes, that's her, that's the beast. And it's this normal looking vampire lady. And all of a sudden you go to Vladislav and he's like, the beast is the name that I gave my ex-girlfriend Pauline because she impaled me on a lamppost and then said some very hurtful things. And it's just, he's never gotten over this thing with their on again, off again relationship.
What I love about that is Vladislav is, or what is his name? It's
Vladislav. Yeah.
Vladislav. Yeah, you got
And
Vladislav.
the beast is Pauline.
Pauline, that was
Pauline.
Yeah, but in the beginning of the movie, you have Vladislav just like trying to like turn into animals, trying to hypnotize people, And they mentioned that he was once a master of doing that. He could hypnotize whole crowds.
Whole groups of people.
He could change into whatever form he wanted. But, you know, after his battle with the beast, his greatest rival, he just never was the same.
Never the same.
Since then. And it's like, every time it mentions that, it shows like these old woodcuts of like this, like
the most bizarre,
weird looking medieval creatures. And yeah, come to find out that the beast is just his ex-girlfriend
that he's never gotten over. Exactly, and this is the root of his trauma. And it's funny too because he confronts her and whatnot. But it's the most bizarre thing that it's just this normal looking lady that this guy has been hurt from. And every time they cut away, it's some nightmare-inducing woodcut from the Middle Ages.
Yeah, and
it
shows it over and over and over.
Werewolf
It's like,
creature.
oh God, this must be a really serious creep.
Yeah.
Like this monster of some kind. No, it's just his ex.
And at one point, it's one of my favorite lines in the movie. They're trying to get him dressed up to go to the unholy masquerade. And he's like, no, do you want the red pants or the black pants? What do you want? And he's like, I'm not going. I won't. And he turns around and he's all white and old. And they're like, oh my God, what happened?
God.
And he goes, just leave me alone to do my dark bidding on the internet.
He's like, what
and
are you
look at him
bidding?
and they're
What
like,
are you bidding on?
What are you bidding on? He goes, a couch.
A table.
And a table.
That would go really
And
nicely. in the kitchen.
He's on eBay. He's on eBay bidding.
Leave me alone to do my dark bidding. And he doesn't even say on the internet. He just says, leave me alone to do my dark bidding. And you're like, ooh, dark bidding.
What is he up to?
And he's bidding on something on eBay.
Yeah, he's on eBay. And it's just like...
You know,
and one of the best parts is when they get to the ball and they find out that Stu is human.
Oh, no.
And everybody's
and
like,
then they turn the camera, and the only person in the mirror is Stu and the zombie.
And the
guy.
zombie guy who just kind of like clapping.
He's like,
but what's interesting is they try to tell the vampires, well, this was your fault. Actually, you said that I could bring a +1, but you didn't indicate, that it couldn't be human.
Could have been human.
And then they're like, look at him, stand up, Stu. And he goes, tell us what you are doing.
Poor Stu.
And Stu is like, well, my name is Stu. Speak louder, Stu. We can't hear you. It's just the last thing you need someone to tell you in front of a group of people that want to eat you. And he's like, my name is Stu. I'm a internet consultant for a mapping firm. And I do like data entry. He is a virgin. He's
totally a virgin. Kill him.
I know. And then all of a sudden, this figure in a mask appears. And he goes, Pauline, you have forgotten your lover. And she goes,
who are you?
Georgie? Is that who it is? And he goes, no. And he's like, can't get the mask off. And it's Vladislav. And she goes, oh, hello, blankety blank. And he's like, don't call me that. Well, don't call me Beast. And she's there with the date. And the date's like, well, why'd you bring this human here? You got a whole camera crew of humans.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And they just noticed.
And then he goes, you cannot eat camera crew. Well, maybe one camera guy.
Yeah, maybe Dave.
But that's it,
But that's
you know.
it.
And then the next thing, you know, they said, like, this guy could be a vampire killer. And then the next thing you know, Vladislav and her boyfriend start fighting. And the music ramps up and everybody's watching. And then someone stabs Pauline's boyfriend.
Oh, no.
With a spear right
through
through his chest in the heart. And it's Stu. And the best line is they're like, get out of the unholy masquerade right now. And so they get out there, and the best line is Vladislav turning to Stu. They're like, oh my God, Stu, that was amazing. And Vladislav saying, wasn't it awesome how we both equally defeated him together, Stu?
Yeah.
It's very dry.
Vladislav is like getting his butt kicked. And it's like, it looks like he's like gonna get like his essence sucked out of him by the other guy or something. And then right at the last minute, Stu intervenes with the spear and impales the guy. And then while they're walking home, Vladislav's like, yes, we were both equally effective.
Yeah, we both equally defeated him together.